The twin suns of Thrixia burned like golden eyes in the sky, shining over a planet of proud towers, silver cities, and endless blue plains. It was once the center of an empire feared and respected across the stars. But now the light of Thrixia was dim, its people quiet, its king silent. King Vorath sat alone on his crystal throne, his face marked by years of grief. His hands gripped the small jeweled crown that once belonged to his daughter, Princess Orlin. Long ago, during the terrible war with the Crusari Dominion, she had vanished. Her flagship had been torn apart by enemy fire near the edge of the Kelnar Rift, and no one had found her body or her escape pod. They said she was gone. The Royal Council had begged the king to move on, to accept her death. But Vorath refused. "Until I see her body with my own eyes," he said, "my daughter lives." Years passed. The war ended, but the victory felt hollow. The empire survived, yet the royal palace was filled with silence. No laughter echoed through its marble halls anymore. The people whispered stories of the lost princess. Some said she had become a spirit guarding the stars. Others said she had been captured and turned into a weapon by the Dominion. The king, however, never stopped searching. He sent out ships every season to distant worlds, hoping for a trace, anything that might lead him to her. But Orlin was far away, lost among the cold stars. Her escape pod had drifted for weeks through the dark emptiness of space. Power systems had failed one by one. She had fallen asleep many times, expecting not to wake again. Then one day, light broke through the darkness. A deep human voice spoke over the pod's weak communicator. "Unidentified pod, this is human Starship Horizon Dawn. We've got you on scan. Hang tight, we're bringing you in." Orlin could barely open her eyes. The voice was strange, so warm, so calm. She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Moments later, her pod was pulled aboard the human ship. When the hatch opened, the bright white lights blinded her. She saw shapes moving, humans in uniforms. One of them leaned close. "She's alive," he said. His voice was gentle but full of command. "Let's get her to medbay." His name was Captain Ethan Cole Orlin. Woke again in a small white room with soft beeping sounds. A strange machine hummed beside her bed. She turned her head and saw a human sitting beside her, reading a small digital tablet. He had short brown hair, tired eyes, and a kind smile. "You're awake," he said. "That's good news. Where am I?" she asked weakly. "On the Horizon Dawn," he said. "A human exploration ship. We found your pod drifting near the rift. You're lucky we picked up your signal. It was faint." Orlin stared at him. "You're human," she whispered. "DEATHWORLDers." Ethan raised an eyebrow but didn't look offended. "That's what some call us, yeah," he said with a small grin. "But we prefer people." She blinked, confused. Humans had been known to the galaxy for only a short time. Wild newcomers from a planet most races considered too dangerous for life. They had strange biology, incredible endurance, and a history full of wars and survival against impossible odds. "Why? Why did you help me?" she asked. "Because you needed it," Ethan said simply. "Out here it doesn't matter who's human or alien. You help people when you can." His words were strange to her, but they carried a truth she could not ignore. No Thrixian would risk their ship to save an unknown alien. Days passed as Orlin recovered. She learned that the Horizon Dawn was a deep space explorer, far from human colonies. Its crew was small, 30 men and women from Earth and Mars, all curious and brave. At first, Orlin kept her distance. She stayed in her room, watching the humans from afar through the cameras. They laughed often, even during hard work. They teased each other, but always shared food, stories, and smiles. It was confusing. In Thrixia, laughter was rare among warriors. Honor and discipline came before emotion. But these humans seemed to carry strength in their kindness. Ethan often came to see her. He brought her books about Earth, its oceans, forests, and animals. One day he showed her pictures of whales. "They're massive creatures," he said, smiling. "They sing in the ocean. You can hear their songs echo for miles. Why do they sing?" Orlin asked softly. "No one really knows," he said. "Maybe they're just telling the universe they're still here." Orlin looked down at the picture for a long time. Something inside her stirred, a deep ache, a reminder of home. Weeks later, Orlin was strong enough to walk again. She began exploring the ship, guided by Ethan. In the engineering bay, she saw humans repairing damaged panels while music played in the background. In the mess hall, she tasted Earth food for the first time, sweet, spicy, and strange. In the observation deck, she stood beside Ethan, watching a nebula glow with blue fire. "Your people," she said quietly. "You are not what I was taught." Ethan laughed softly. "What did they tell you?" "That humans were dangerous, reckless, that you bring chaos wherever you go." He nodded thoughtfully. "That's not wrong," he said. "But sometimes chaos brings change, and sometimes it saves lives." Orlin turned to look at him. His eyes were calm, yet she could see fire behind them, a kind of determination she had never seen before. "Your world must be strong," she said. He smiled faintly. "Strong enough to keep standing. That's what we do best." One night the ship shook violently. Alarms echoed through the halls. Orlin rushed to the bridge, her heart pounding. "What's happening?" she shouted. "Pirates," Ethan said, gripping the controls. "They came out of warp. Probably picked up our energy signature." The Horizon Dawn was a science ship not built for war. Laser fire lit up the blackness outside. Ethan ordered evasive maneuvers, but the pirates were closing in fast. Without thinking, Orlin ran to the weapon station. "Let me help," she said. Ethan hesitated. "You know how to handle this?" "I was trained to fight long before I could walk," she said. He nodded. "Then welcome to the crew, Princess." Her hands flew across the controls, her old instincts returning. She targeted the enemy ship's engines, firing a burst that disabled its shields. The humans cheered. Ethan smiled as the pirates retreated into the void. When it was over, the crew celebrated their narrow escape. Orlin felt something strange in her chest, pride. It had been so long since she had fought not for glory, but for people she cared about. Later, as the ship drifted through calm space, Orlin stood by the observation deck window, gazing at the stars. Ethan walked in quietly beside her. "Nice shooting back there," he said. She smiled faintly. "I had a good captain." For a while they stood in silence. Then she spoke again, her voice soft. "My people, they think I am dead." Ethan looked at her. "Then we'll prove them wrong." She turned to him, eyes shining with quiet hope. "You would help me return?" "Of course," he said. "No one deserves to be lost forever." Orlin looked out at the stars again. Her home felt so far away, almost like a dream, but for the first time in years she believed she might see it again. She pressed her hand gently to the window and whispered, "Father, if you can hear me, I am coming home." Behind her, Ethan stood silently, watching the stars as well. Neither of them knew that their journey would change not just their lives, but the fate of two worlds forever. The Horizon Dawn drifted through the quiet darkness of space. For the first time in years, Princess Orlin could see the light of her home star, Solthra, the golden sun of Thrixia. It shimmered like a beacon in the distance, warm and familiar. Her heart pounded as the ship moved closer. She stood by the main viewport, her reflection shining against the stars. Ethan walked up beside her. "That's your world?" he asked softly. "Yes," she whispered. "That's Thrixia." The planet grew larger with every passing minute, showing its blue oceans, silver cities, and white ring of orbiting stations. It looked peaceful and proud, but Orlin knew peace had not come easily. In the royal palace far below, King Vorath sat on his throne, surrounded by silent guards. The years had not been kind to him. His once dark hair was now silver, his shoulders heavy with sorrow. Yet his eyes still held the same strength as when he had led armies through the stars. He stared at the small crown on the table beside him, Orlin's crown. A voice broke his silence. "My king, the border fleet reports an unknown ship approaching from the outer sectors." Vorath frowned. "Unknown? Identify it. They say it carries a Thrixian royal beacon." The king's hand froze in midair. "What did you say?" "Royal code, sire. Verified and ancient. It matches your daughter's lineage." For a moment, the room fell silent. The king slowly stood. "Impossible," he whispered. The beacon was lost decades ago, but deep in his heart, something flickered, something he had not felt in years. Hope. "Bring me the image," he commanded. Meanwhile, the Horizon Dawn moved cautiously into Thrixian space. Dozens of warships appeared, forming a wide circle around them. "They're locking on," said Rena the engineer. "They could blow us apart any second." Ethan raised a hand. "Hold steady. We're not here to fight." Orlin stepped forward. "Open the communication channel." The main screen flickered, showing a group of armored Thrixian officers. One of them shouted, "Unidentified human ship, you have entered royal territory. Power down immediately. Before Ethan could answer, Orlin stepped in front of the camera. Her voice was calm but strong. I am Princess Orlin of Thrixia, daughter of King Vorath. Stand down your weapons. The entire bridge on the other side went silent. The commander stared, his mouth open. That cannot be, he stammered. The princess is dead. Do I look dead to you? She asked firmly. Behind her, Ethan gave a small smile. Told you we'd find a way home. Within minutes, the message spread across Thrixia. The lost princess had returned. Ships changed formation, and the fleets that once aimed weapons at the humans now formed an escort around them. The path to the capital was opened. On the planet's surface, the city of Aurelian prepared for something it never expected again. People filled the streets, watching the skies, whispering her name. The horizon dawn descended through the clouds, guided by golden beams. When the landing ramp opened, Orlin stepped out first, dressed in a simple white uniform borrowed from the human crew. The wind carried the scent of her homeworld, warm, floral, and full of memories. Before her stood hundreds of guards and nobles, staring in disbelief. Then the crowd parted and King Vorath himself stepped forward. His eyes locked on his daughter. Orlin froze. For years she had dreamed of this moment, but now that it was real, she couldn't move. The king's voice trembled. Orlin? Tears filled her eyes. Father? He walked toward her slowly, as if afraid she would vanish again. When he reached her, he placed a trembling hand on her face. It's you, he whispered. Orlin smiled through her tears. I told you I would find my way home. The king pulled her into his arms, holding her as though afraid to let go. Around them, the crowd fell to their knees. The lost princess had truly returned. Later, in the great hall of the palace, a celebration began. Music filled the air, lights shimmered across marble walls, and nobles came from every province to see her. But while everyone celebrated, whispers spread about the human who had arrived beside her. Ethan stood quietly near a column, watching the room. He was dressed in a formal suit given by the palace servants, though he looked slightly uncomfortable. Captain Cole, said a voice behind him. He turned to see an elderly Thrixian noble with golden robes and sharp eyes. Yes, sir? Ethan asked politely. You brought our princess home, the noble said. For that we thank you, but tell me, what is it you want from Thrixia? Ethan frowned. Nothing. I just wanted her to be safe. The noble smiled faintly but did not believe him. Humans rarely act without purpose. Before Ethan could respond, Orlin appeared beside him. He saved my life, she said coldly. Show him respect. The noble bowed quickly and left. Ethan gave her a small smile. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, she said softly. They don't understand humans. Not yet. Later that evening, Orlin sat with her father in the royal garden. The stars above were bright, the same stars she had once watched as a child. The king studied her closely. You've changed, he said gently. You carry yourself like a soldier now. I had to, she replied. War took everything from me. He nodded slowly. And this human, Ethan, he helped you survive? Yes, she said. He saved me, father. More than once. The king looked thoughtful. And now he stands in my halls among my people. That will not be easy. I know, she said. But he deserves their respect. He risked his life to bring me home. The king was silent for a long time. Then he said quietly, You speak of him with warmth. Do you trust him completely? I do, she said simply. The king looked up at the stars. Then perhaps I must trust him too. The next morning, Orlin walked through the training grounds where Thrixian soldiers practiced in shining armor. She watched as Ethan sparred with one of them, moving with quick reflexes and surprising skill. The soldiers were impressed. For a human, he fights like a storm. One whispered. When Ethan disarmed his opponent with a clean move, the watching crowd clapped. Orlin smiled proudly. King Vorath himself came to watch. When Ethan bowed, the king said, I see now why my daughter speaks highly of you. Ethan nodded respectfully. It's an honor, your majesty. The king studied him carefully. You've earned that honor, human. But know this, Thrixia is a proud empire. Many will not welcome your presence. Yet for today you are a guest of my house. Thank you, Ethan replied calmly. That night a royal feast was held. The grand hall was full of laughter, music, and the glow of crystal lamps. But amid the celebration, a shadow of unease remained. Orlin noticed the sharp looks from certain nobles. She knew they feared change. The idea of a human standing beside royalty disturbed them. When the music stopped, she stood to speak. The hall grew silent. "My people," she said clearly, "I have returned not as the girl who was lost, but as one who has seen the universe beyond our stars. I have learned that strength is not found only in power, but in kindness, in courage, and in unity." She turned to Ethan, who stood quietly among the guests. "This human saved me when all others had given up hope. He showed me that honor is not bound by species but by heart." The hall fell silent. Then slowly the king stood beside her. He raised his goblet high. "To the human who brought my daughter home," he said. The crowd hesitated for a moment, then applause filled the air. Ethan bowed humbly, his face calm but his eyes shining. Orlin smiled. For the first time she felt peace. As the night ended, she stood on the palace balcony beside Ethan. Below them, lights of the city glowed like stars. "You did it," Ethan said softly. "You made them see." "Not all," she said. "But it's a start." Ethan looked toward the horizon. "What will you do now?" "Rebuild," she said. "My people have forgotten what peace feels like. Maybe I can remind them." He nodded. "And after that?" She smiled faintly. "We'll see what the stars have planned." The wind brushed past them, carrying the sound of distant celebration. Orlin looked up at the sky, the same stars that once seemed so far away. Now they felt closer than ever. The horizon dawn moved silently through the dark sea of stars. For days, the ship had followed the faint royal signal that belonged only to one world. Thrixia, the home Orlin had lost long ago. She stood on the bridge beside Captain Ethan Cole, her silver eyes fixed on the glowing coordinates. Her heart beat fast, not with fear but with something deeper, hope mixed with doubt. "Are you ready for this?" Ethan asked quietly. Orlin nodded slowly. "I must be, my people. They need to know I'm alive. My father must know." Her voice trembled a little. Outside the viewport, the Thrixian star system came into view. Giant defense satellites floated in orbit and warships patrolled the skies. Their design was sharp, elegant, and cold, symbols of a proud empire that had never trusted outsiders. Ethan gave a low whistle. "Looks like they don't want visitors." "No," Orlin said softly. "They never did. But they will listen. Once they know who I am." The moment the horizon dawn crossed the outer border, red alerts filled the air. Dozens of Thrixian ships appeared on scanners. Their energy cannons glowed as they surrounded the small human vessel. A voice echoed through the speakers, stern and metallic. "Unidentified ship. You have entered restricted space of the Thrixian Empire. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Ethan sighed. "Friendly welcome, huh?" Orlin took a step forward. "Let me speak." She opened the communication channel and spoke clearly, her voice calm yet strong. "This is Princess Orlin, daughter of King Vorath of Thrixia. I have returned." For a few seconds there was silence. Then chaos broke through the channel. Voices argued in disbelief. "Impossible. The princess perished in the Crusari War. It's a trick." Ethan glanced at her. "Guess they're not throwing a party yet." "Give me visual," Orlin said. The screen blinked, showing her face to every Thrixian ship commander. Her royal crest, glowing faintly on her collar, matched the ancient symbol stored in their data. "I am no ghost," she said softly. "I am Orlin of the House of Vorath. Let me return home." The Thrixian ships went silent again. Then one by one their weapons powered down. A flagship moved forward slowly. "Your Highness?" "By the stars. It's really you." Ethan exhaled in relief. "Looks like you're in." The ships formed a protective escort and guided the horizon dawn toward Thrixia. As they entered the planet's orbit, the crew of the human ship stared in awe. Thrixia was breathtaking, a world of shimmering silver towers and glowing rivers of light. But beneath its beauty lay scars from war, broken cities, burned plains, and empty skies. Orlin's eyes filled with sadness. "It's not as I remember." Ethan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "No world stays the same after war." The king's palace still stood tall on the mountain of Zareth, crowned with blue energy domes and crystal bridges. A landing platform opened for them, lined with armed guards wearing black and gold armor. As Orlin stepped out, whispers ran through the soldiers. Some dropped their weapons, others bowed deeply. Many had tears in their eyes. They had served under her during the war. "Princess, it's really you," one soldier whispered. "I've returned," she said softly. "Where is my father?" "He waits in the throne hall," the soldier replied. Ethan followed silently, his steps echoing behind her. The palace was filled with cold light and heavy silence. Banners of victory hung beside memorials of the fallen. The people of Thrixia had not celebrated for years. They had only survived. When the great doors of the throne hall opened, the sound rolled through the palace like thunder. King Vorath sat on his throne, his once dark hair now streaked with gray. His armor, more ceremonial than royal, looked heavy on his broad shoulders. He was older, but his eyes, those fierce golden eyes, still burned with strength. He looked up as Orlin entered. For a long moment he did not move. Orlin walked slowly toward him, her steps trembling. "Father, it's me." Vorath rose, his hands shaking. His voice was rough with disbelief. "No, this cannot be. My daughter was lost in the fires of war. I searched every system, every grave. I was lost," she whispered, "but I was found." When she knelt before him, tears glimmered in her eyes. "I came home." The king stepped down the stairs of the throne and placed his trembling hands on her shoulders. For a heartbeat, he simply stared at her face, searching for a lie, but found none. Then his voice broke. "My daughter, my little star." He embraced her, and for the first time in many years, the hall was not silent. It echoed with emotion. The guards bowed deeply, many of them unable to hold back tears. Even Ethan, standing quietly near the entrance, felt his chest tighten. After a long time, the king looked past Orlin and noticed Ethan. The warmth in his face vanished. His expression turned cold and sharp. "And who is this human standing beside my bloodline?" Orlin rose. "Father, this is Captain Ethan Cole of the human ship Horizon Dawn. He saved my life." "Without him, I would never have returned," the court murmured. The word human rippled through the room like poison. The king's eyes narrowed. "A human? You brought a Deathworlder into our sacred halls?" Ethan bowed slightly, keeping his tone calm. "Your Majesty, I meant no disrespect. I only did what was right." Vorath studied him, clearly torn between anger and curiosity. "Humans fight for money and power. Why would you risk your life for a princess not of your kind?" Ethan's answer was simple. "Because she was alone. No one should be left to die alone." The hall fell silent again. Even the cold-hearted nobles could not find an insult to throw at such words. Vorath's eyes softened just a little. "You speak with honor. Rare for your kind." He turned to Orlin. "You trust this human?" "With my life," she said firmly. That simple sentence made the court stir. The king sighed deeply. "Then for now he will be our guest. But his kind has no place in our politics. He stays under my watch." Orlin bowed. "Thank you, Father." That night the palace glowed brighter than it had in years. Messengers spread the news. The lost princess has returned. Citizens filled the streets, lighting blue lanterns that floated into the sky. Orlin watched from her balcony, her heart heavy yet hopeful. The city was beautiful again, but she could feel the distance between her and her father. He loved her deeply, but he did not understand what she had gone through, or what humans truly were. Ethan joined her quietly. "Quite the homecoming," he said. She smiled faintly. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. My father doesn't trust your people yet." Ethan leaned on the balcony rail, looking out at the glowing city. "He will one way or another." Orlin turned to him. "How can you be so sure?" "Because," Ethan said with a small grin, "humans have a habit of surprising everyone." Below them, thousands of lights floated into the dark sky. For the first time in many years, Thrixia celebrated not victory, not conquest, but the return of hope. And though the king still watched from his window in silence, even he could not hide the tear that fell down his scarred cheek. His daughter was home, but the human beside her would change Thrixia forever. The palace of Thrixia had not seen such a gathering in decades. Courtiers, generals, and scholars filled the grand hall. Golden banners reflected the soft light of the crystal chandeliers, casting long shadows over polished marble floors. At the center, King Vorath sat tall, his face stern but attentive. Beside him, Princess Orlin stood proudly, though her hand brushed lightly against the hilt of her ceremonial dagger, a reminder of her years in the stars. And at the entrance of the hall, Captain Ethan Cole stood quietly. He had been asked to appear before the king and council. The human's reputation was unknown to most Thrixians, and the noble's suspicion weighed heavily in the room. Orlan's voice broke the tense silence. "Father, these humans saved me. They carried me through danger when no Thrixian could. And this human," she gestured to Ethan, "proved his loyalty without question. He deserves your respect." A murmur ran through the hall. Some of the nobles shook their heads, disbelief on their faces. One of the senior generals stepped forward. His armor gleamed silver, trimmed with gold. "A human," he said sharply. "Do you expect us to trust a species that has only recently entered our space? They are unknown, reckless, dangerous." Ethan stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "I understand your concern, Your Excellency. I am not here to fight you or to take your world. I only helped a young woman in need." A Thrixian diplomat scoffed. "Words are easy. Humans are known for words, actions. We do not know." Orlan turned to the king. "Father, watch him. He has already acted. He saved my life and returned me to you. That is proof enough." Vorath studied Ethan carefully. The tension in the room was thick, like a storm about to break. Finally, the king's voice boomed. "Very well. Captain Ethan Cole, you will answer 3 questions before this court. Your words may prove your honor or your deceit. Speak wisely." Ethan nodded calmly. "I will, Your Majesty." The first question came from a military strategist. "Tell us, human, how did you survive in a sector full of pirates and Dominion remnants? Many Thrixian ships perished there." Ethan met the man's gaze steadily. "By understanding the environment and the people in it. I could not outgun them, but I could outthink them. Strategy and quick decision saved us," the council whispered among themselves. Some were impressed, others still unconvinced. The second question came from a noblewoman with sharp golden eyes. "Why help Princess Orlan? She is of our blood, but you are not of this world. Why risk your life?" Ethan's answer was simple, clear, and without hesitation. "Because every life matters, no matter the origin. The universe does not divide its people by stars or species. True courage is knowing when to act, and honor is acting without expectation of reward." The room fell silent. Even the most skeptical noble found it hard to argue against such words. Finally, the king spoke. His eyes locked on Ethan's. "And the third question, Captain? If you must stay in Thrixia, will you obey our laws? Will you respect our people? Or will your kind's ways bring conflict to my kingdom?" Ethan bowed his head. "I am a guest in your world. I will follow your laws, respect your people, and serve as an ally, not a conqueror. I pledge this before you and before Princess Orlan." The king leaned back in his throne, studying him silently. Minutes passed. The air was heavy. Then finally Vorath spoke. "You speak with honor. Your actions prove your words. For this reason, Captain, I accept your presence in my halls temporarily. But know this, many will watch you. Some will doubt you. Some will challenge you. If you betray my trust, the consequences will be severe." "I understand, Your Majesty," Ethan said calmly. Orlan stepped forward. "Father, he is not here to betray. He saved me. He stands by me because it is right, not for reward. He is the kind of ally we need." The king's expression softened. "Then we shall see if your kind can stand the test of time." That evening, the palace gardens were alive with music and soft candlelight. Orlan walked beside Ethan, explaining the changes that had come to Thrixia during her absence. "Your return is more than just hope for me," she said quietly. "The people need to believe that our empire can endure, that even in darkness we survive." Ethan listened carefully. "And you survived too. That's proof enough," Orlan smiled faintly. "Sometimes survival is only the beginning. Now comes the hard part. Earning trust, guiding my people, and ensuring peace." They paused near a fountain where the water reflected the stars. For a moment, the galaxy outside seemed distant and quiet. Then alarms blared from the palace. Red lights flashed across the walls. "Attack!" shouted a guard. "Unknown vessels approaching fast." Orlan's heart raced. She turned to Ethan. They came so quickly. The palace's defensive towers fired energy beams into the sky. Outside, strange ships, larger and faster than any Thrixian fleet, swooped in. They were Crusari remnants, merciless and hungry for revenge. Ethan immediately assessed the situation. "We need to coordinate the defenses. Princess, can you access the palace command systems?" "I can," she said. "But we will need more than cannons. They'll outmaneuver us if we rely on firepower alone." Ethan nodded. "Exactly what I was thinking." Together, they ran through the palace corridors to the command center. Orlin tapped into the systems, rerouting energy to shield generators while Ethan calculated tactical maneuvers. The enemy ships fired, and the palace defenses responded. Energy beams clashed in the night sky. The humans' experience in unpredictable combat proved invaluable. They anticipated attacks and countered with precision. Orlin's voice was steady as she directed the palace defenses. "Focus on the lead ship. Don't scatter," Ethan coordinated with the palace pilots. "Use the city structures as cover. Force them into the canyons. Don't give them straight shots." For hours, the battle raged. Sparks and energy arcs lit the sky. Civilians were moved to secure areas, guided by soldiers and palace staff. Through strategy, courage, and calm coordination, the Thrixian defenses, aided by Ethan's guidance, began to push the enemy back. At the critical moment, Ethan ordered a final maneuver. "Lead the remaining ships into the energy grid trap I calculated." Orlin's eyes widened. It could work. The enemy ships, fast and aggressive, fell into the trap. Energy beams struck at precise angles, disabling engines and forcing them to retreat. The night sky was silent again, save for the distant stars. The people of Thrixia cheered. They had defended their home, not only through strength but through strategy, guided by a human. After the battle, King Vorath walked to the balcony overlooking the city. He found Orlin and Ethan standing together. "You were right," he said quietly, almost to himself. "This human, he is more than what I expected. Not because he is strong, but because he is loyal, clever, and brave." Orlin smiled. "I told you, Father. He is the one who saved me, and in doing so saved more than just me." Ethan bowed lightly. "I only did what anyone should do." The king's eyes softened. "Then for now, he is part of this kingdom, by choice and by honor. We will see what the future holds." Orlin looked at him, gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, Father, for trusting me." "And him," the king nodded. "Trust must be earned, yes. And tonight it has been earned." Below, the city glowed. Lanterns floated into the sky and music began again. But this time the music was not just for celebration, it was a reminder. Even after loss and war, new alliances could rise. Even strangers from distant worlds could become heroes. Orlin turned to Ethan, her voice soft but steady. "The path ahead will not be easy, but I know one thing, we face it together." Ethan smiled faintly. "Together," he agreed. Above them, the stars shone brighter than ever. Thrixia had seen its lost princess return, and alongside her a human who would change its destiny forever. The dawn broke over Aurelian, Thrixia's shining capital. Golden light reflected off the towers, and silver bridges glittered like rivers in the morning sun. The city was still recovering from the sudden Crusari attack the night before, but the people were alive. That, above all, was a reason to celebrate. Princess Orlin stood on the palace balcony overlooking the streets. Beside her, Captain Ethan Cole watched quietly. Despite being a human in an alien world, he had earned the respect of soldiers and civilians alike. Still, Orlin knew that not everyone had accepted him. "Are they all going to trust you?" she asked softly. Ethan shrugged. "Not yet. But actions speak louder than words. If we keep showing them the right choices, they'll follow." Orlin smiled. "Then we need to act quickly. Thrixia can't survive if we rest too long. There are still remnants of the Crusari fleet hiding in nearby systems. They may strike again." Ethan nodded. "Then we prepare." Inside the palace, King Vorath convened an emergency council. Advisors, generals, and nobles filled the great hall. All eyes were on Orlin and Ethan as they entered. "Today," the king said, his voice strong, "we plan not just for defense, but for the future of Thrixia. My daughter has returned, and she brings knowledge from beyond our borders. And this human, Captain Cole, has proven his courage and wisdom. Together they will guide us." Some nobles whispered among themselves, still doubtful of a human's place in the Empire, but Vorath's words carried weight. No one dared challenge him openly. Orlin took a deep breath. "The Crusari are regrouping in the outer sectors. They know our defenses, but they do not know our unity. If we strike strategically, we can eliminate their forces and secure our borders once and for all." Ethan stepped forward, pointing to a star map. "We need to split their attention. We hit multiple targets at once. And we use the terrain, asteroid fields, nebulae, and debris to our advantage. They will expect a direct attack, not a coordinated, precise strike." A general spoke up, skeptical. "You suggest splitting our fleet into smaller units? That is risky. The Crusari will overwhelm us." Ethan met his gaze calmly. Risk is part of war. But calculated risk guided by strategy can turn the tide. Trust your soldiers to follow orders and they will protect each other. Orlin added, Captain Cole's strategy saved me and our ship before. We will follow his plan and together we will end the threat. Vorath looked around the hall. You see? Strength is not always in numbers but in minds united by purpose. We will trust them, and we will act as one. The preparations took hours. Soldiers loaded energy weapons, pilots recalibrated their ships, and engineers reinforced shields. Orlin moved among them, offering encouragement and guidance. Her presence alone inspired courage. The princess who had returned from the stars carried hope in her every step. Ethan coordinated the final fleet arrangements. Alpha units take the outer rim. Beta units cover the nebula entrance. I will lead the vanguard through the asteroid belt to intercept the main Crusari fleet. Orlin placed her hand lightly on his arm. Are you certain this will work? Ethan smiled faintly. It has to. Trust your people and trust yourself. I trust you. Her heart warmed at his words. Together they moved to the command ship ready to lead the strike. The battle began in the void. Thrixian ships surged forward, coordinated and precise. The Crusari fleet tried to respond with raw force. But Ethan's tactics had anticipated every move. Asteroids were used as cover. Energy nets trapped the smaller enemy ships and plasma cannons hit critical targets. The Thrixian pilots, inspired by the presence of their princess and guided by a human's experience, moved with a precision they had never known before. Orlin commanded from the palace fleet, monitoring communications and giving orders. Her voice was calm, steady, and full of authority. Vanguard pushed through the left flank. Beta units intercept their reinforcements. The Crusari flagship, a massive dark ship, tried to escape through a nebula. Ethan calculated the trajectory and launched a precise strike from hidden positions. The flagship's engines exploded, sending the rest of the fleet into retreat. Victory was clear, but Orlin and Ethan did not celebrate yet. They knew some remnants would remain, but the attack had united Thrixia in a way nothing else could. Soldiers, pilots, and citizens saw their kingdom protected not by fear, but by leadership, courage, and unity. After the battle, Orlin returned to the palace, her dress slightly torn, her armor smudged with dust and energy residue. The city welcomed her as a hero. Citizens lined the streets, cheering, singing, and waving blue banners. King Vorath met her at the throne hall. You have done more than return, my daughter. You have led my people to hope and victory. And this human... He turned to Ethan, his eyes serious. You have proven your honor beyond doubt. Thrixia owes you its gratitude. Ethan bowed. It was an honor to serve. Vorath smiled faintly. You will remain here, not as a guest, but as a protector and advisor. You will stand by my daughter as she leads our people. Orlin's eyes shone with pride. Thank you, Father. Together we will ensure Thrixia prospers. The king nodded. Yes, together. Days passed and Thrixia began rebuilding. Orlin worked alongside advisors and engineers, strengthening defenses, restoring cities, and helping the people who had suffered during the Crusari attacks. Ethan moved among the soldiers, teaching them new tactics and strategies. It was not easy. Some nobles still resisted, questioning the presence of a human in royal matters, but Orlin's voice was firm. Trust is earned through action, she told them. Captain Cole has proven himself. So must we prove ourselves worthy of our people's future. Gradually, respect grew. Even the most skeptical nobles began to see the value in unity, courage, and fresh ideas. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace, Orlin and Ethan walked along the balcony. The city below glowed with lights of celebration and renewal. You did it, Orlin said softly. You helped me not just survive, but lead. Ethan looked at her. You did it. I only helped. Leadership, courage. It comes from you, she smiled faintly. And yet I could not have done it alone. You gave me support when I needed it most. He shrugged. Humans are good at standing beside those who need help. Orlin laughed quietly. Then perhaps your kind is not so different from mine after all. They watched the stars above, thinking of the vast universe beyond Thrixia. Battles were won, but adventures would continue. Allies had been made, and a new bond between worlds had formed. King Vorath summoned Orlin and Ethan to the royal chambers one final time. He stood by the window looking at the stars. My daughter, he said, his voice full of emotion. I feared I would never see you again, and now? You return not as a child but as a leader. You have made me proud beyond words. Orlin stepped forward. Father, your guidance always stayed with me even in the stars. He turned to Ethan. And you, human, you are no longer merely a guest. You are part of this family. You have earned my trust, my respect, and my protection. Stand by my daughter as she leads this kingdom to greatness. Ethan bowed. I will, your majesty. The king nodded. Good. Let this be the beginning of a new era, not only for Thrixia, but for all who follow honor and courage regardless of their origin. That night, Orlin and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The fountains sparkled, reflecting the moons, and flowers bloomed in perfect order. The kingdom was alive again, not through wealth or conquest, but through hope, unity, and loyalty. Do you think they will accept humans fully one day? Orlin asked. Ethan smiled faintly. Perhaps. But it takes time. Actions speak louder than words always, she nodded. Then we will show them, together. As they stood side by side, gazing at the stars, Orlin realized the greatest victory was not in defeating enemies, but in building trust, friendship, and courage that would last for generations. The princess who was once lost in war had returned, and this time, she would lead with the human who stood by her side, proving to the universe that courage, honor, and unity could bridge even the greatest of divides. Above Thrixia, the stars shone brighter than ever. A new era had begun,